Welcome back to the channel. Today we are out on the Marin Rift Zone EL. I'm excited to have this bike for a long-term test, so today we're out for our first ride impressions as well as my standard range test. I'm doing my rather unscientific range test, but I've put the Trek Fuel EX through it, the Santa Cruz Heckler SL, and the Specialized Turbo Levo SL through the same route, and it should provide a good comparison. It's a quick route with just less than 13 miles and just over 3,000 feet of climbing. Even with stopping to get some shots, it still took just under an hour and a half. This bike was all new last fall and utilizes Bosch's new SX motor that seems to be the new hot item for light, mid-power e-bikes. This should be a potent package in the low to mid 40-pound range. This 140 frame mated to a 150 fork sets it solidly in the all-mountain trail bike category. Let's talk e-bike stuff real quick. You have a 400 watt-hour battery and 55 newton meters of max torque with up to 600 watts of peak power. That all weighs in at just over 46 pounds. Compared to other lightweight e-bikes I've reviewed, there is noticeably more power than the Trek with the TQ motor, and something more comparable to the Fazua Ride 60. Compared to that, it has less peak torque, but a fair bit more peak power, 450 to 600. Continuous power is the same, and while I can't really say one feels better than the other, I'll insert some clips of noise here. I mentioned it in my Heckler SL review, but this feels much more like a full power e-bike, and when riding with friends on full power bikes, the difference in speed climbing is only on mid-steep climbs. If it's real steep, they're basically equal, and on those mid-steeps, my friend was just running one off turbo instead of full turbo. Bosch has a strong e-bike history, and the hope is that this translates to a reliable and worry-free system. Since I have the Rift Zone for a long-term test, I'll do my best to test that theory. What about the bike I'm riding? Well, this is the EL2, and at just 6K, it's a pretty good value. That said, I would rather see some nicer suspension, but you would have to jump up to the XR for that, and the SRAM transmission and some Agura brakes I'm not familiar with jumps the price up to 7K. For me, that thinks I'll be sticking with the EL2 and just upgrading the fork and damper. Both bikes have a pretty generic wheel similar to what I have on my Alpine Trail, which after some retensioning has been fine. So you have the hot new motor and everyone's favorite trail guys. How's this thing out on the trail?
All right, so at the top of the initial and biggest climb of the day, I can say we are sitting at, or we have killed 2 battery bars. I'm not totally sure what that means, I'll look it up, but yeah, a little worried, but not too worried. We'll see how things go. First update, over. All right, so climbing update number 2. Almost to the top of PT. This is the second climb. Not quite as long as the first one, but I am down to 2 battery bars and they are orange, so not certain what it means, but it seems like I'm running out of batteries. I have like one okay climb and then the road climb back to the parking lot, so fingers crossed this makes it. Like I may have mentioned already in this video, but the Santa Cruz made it. The EXE Trek barely didn't make it. The Specialized definitely didn't make it. So let's see how this guy does. All right, so second descent. Oh yeah, I love that hit. Oh. All right, so right here, then left here, steep trails like this, these e-bikes feel so good. They just carry momentum like nothing else. Almost got on that goofy Oh man, that was rough. I am glad this bike came with the Code R's instead of those DB8 brakes. That's definitely nice, but this one actually has a little bit lesser expense, but this one has a little bit lesser suspension than the Marin Alpine Trail I have, so that is its own little issue. I wonder what it weighs though. I'm gonna have to weigh it. It definitely feels lighter than the Regulator CX, but I can't believe it'd be much lighter since it's aluminum. This may be my favorite e-bike trail. It's just so, it's got the perfect steepness to it to just carry momentum and pump. Definitely feeling that little bit lesser suspension. Oftentimes these e-bikes are heavier, longer travel bikes make the not the greatest suspension feel better because they keep it active, but I am feeling it lock up pretty good. On the not so steep stuff though, it's not too bad. Carries speed, bounces a little weird. Oh, that was a good one. Don't want to get too wet. Ha! Nice. That is a very, very fun bike. All right, so now for the kind of hard ascent. Definitely a bit wet today. As you can see, pretty rooty. That is where e-bikes are nice. They just keep moving along. Traction's decent. I will say this one does feel like it errs on the side of traction over efficiency, but it's not a bad thing when we're talking about a bike that has a motor. All right, so in the middle of basically the third and final climb. This is the most technical one, but it's also the shortest, so hopefully battery keeps going. I am down to 1 bar. And I think I talked about it a second ago, but I'm gonna recover it if I didn't. But basically, this bike does err on the side of traction over efficiency, but because it's got a motor, who cares? It's got a very comfortable climbing position. I'd have to check what it is, but man, feels like I'm right on top of the bike. It is a dual 2.9er, which isn't a setup I've ridden a ton lately, but not too worried about it. It felt a little awkward in some of the real steep stuff I've ridden, but not too bad. Climbing wise though, yeah, puts you in a really good body position. Little traction over efficiency, but that body position does seem to mean good things for switchbacks. Probably just gonna give it a 4 for now, but it feels maybe better. It'll be in my long-term review, but we'll take it to the real hard switchback, which, yeah, let's be real. These e-bikes can make those real tight switchbacks a little bit hard. But yeah, overall, very competent climber and decent amount of power to get up the hill. All right, so at the top of the third climb, I still have 1 bar. It's still orange. And as opposed to the Specialized that said it still had battery, but I wasn't quite sure if it was helping or not, I can still feel the output on this. I'd say overall it's got a more aggressive feel like the Fazua, which I like. I'm gonna get some assistance. It's nice to feel it. Yeah. Third battery life update over. Oh, one more update. I actually was very close to the top. Now I am at the top, and that went from orange to red. So top of the third climb, red, still feels like it's got some power. We'll see how it pedals the road at the end of the ride.
So you've heard my on-trail thoughts, and what's the verdict? Well, it's pretty good. When it comes to chunk, the low centered weight of an e-bike is pretty clutch. It just makes things feel stable and muted. When you get hard on the brakes, you do find the limits of the original multi-track system that you find on this Rift Zone. The new Alpine Trail has the updated system they call multi-track too. But it's not a deal breaker, and for the price, I'm hard pressed to care. Steeps are probably the most noticeable part of that suspension issue, and you'll find the back end locked up more than I want, but again, the low centered weight kept me confident. I'll also be messing with the headset cups, as I think that will fit my terrain a little bit better. Next, looking at jumps, the single pivot multi-track is enthusiastic, at least for a bike of this weight. It was pretty fun, and while I didn't take it off anything too large, I was feeling pretty confident and don't think I'll hesitate in the future. Cornering, it again goes to how the Rift Zone carries its weight, and how supportive that suspension is. It's not too long and therefore pumps and pushes nicely. The weight adds to the grip right up until it doesn't. I did get the back end to skip a bit in loose and sweeping corners, but it was something I didn't have much trouble controlling. So final thoughts on who is this bike for? In the past, I've struggled to recommend any e-bike because of how fast the technology just keeps changing. And with all the ups and downs in the bike market, it's also made things harder. Some of the sale prices I've seen have been crazy, but you know, buyer beware. I don't believe I've heard of any of these systems without issues, so you're going to want a warranty and a company to back things up. However, with these two new motors from Bosch, I feel better about recommending these bikes.
Whoa!
I still feel the Heckler SL is one of the best e-MTBs out there, but who knows what's next with the Fazua motor. With that said, Santa Cruz and Fazua don't appear to be going anywhere, so I'm comfortable with that recommendation, especially if you can find one on sale. When it comes to Marin though, this is a great bike at the price. Yes, I would quickly upgrade the damper in the fork, but even then it's still a value. I'm also really interested in swinging a leg over the Transition Regulator SX and DaVinci e-Troy Lite next. But for the money, those bikes don't really compete. I'm still working on how to rank these things in the Loam library. But as far as how this thing compares to just regular bikes, I would say climbing, the body position is a 5. Efficiency, probably a 3. Traction, 4. Switchbacks, I'm gonna give it a 4 for now. Descending, in the chunk, it's definitely a 4. Steeps, a 3. Jumps and cornering, I'm gonna do both 3s there. It's a big bike. It's a little bit heavier than some lightweight e-bikes, but it's not bad. And then for quality and value, it's getting 4s across the board. I'd probably give it a 5 for value if it had a lifetime warranty like so many other bikes do, but for the price, it's hard to beat. Marin has come a long way with their mountain bikes in recent years, and these bikes are all about fun. And to be honest, I'm not always sure who the buyers for e-bikes are. Are they people looking for a second bike for a more leisurely ride? Is it a rider that couldn't otherwise ride? Are they towing their kid up the hill? Is it just a bunch of friends with bikes no different to myself and my friends? I get the feeling it's all of the above. If I were to purchase an e-bike, it would be a bike like this that's something preferably in the 45-pound or less range. I'd want to be able to ride with my friends on full-powered bikes, but I wouldn't want to change how I ride downhill. The Trek Fuel EX-E was my first long-term e-bike, and I thought it was great. But there was no keeping up with full-power e-bikes, and when it came down to reliability, things fell apart. Was it Trek, was it TQ, or was it the shop? I don't really know, but hopefully things have gotten better. After riding the Fazua and Bosch, I would struggle to go back to the TQ motor. The Specialized was also good, but by far the shortest range, and keeping up with the full power bike still wasn't going to happen. The Marin Rift Zone EL is fun in its purest form. It's not pretentious, but it is refined. If you're looking for an e-MTB, swing a leg over the Rift Zone. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Spring is here and reviews are coming fast. Subscribe so you don't miss out. If you're looking to pick one of these things up, please click through the affiliate links in the description below. Jensen USA has this and more. There's no additional cost to you and it greatly helps the channel. Now get out there, go fast, and take chances. See you next week.
All right, so parking lot climb. Still have some battery. Definitely not as much power though. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to kill it. Yeah, for boost mode, it isn't very boosty. But yeah, still have some power. Pretty excited, definitely feels like similar to that Fazoo on the Santa Cruz Heckler SL.